Um, so today, when you're solving equations, just what you need to really understand is that it is doing the opposite of what operation's going on in your problem. We're obviously gonna break it down as much as possible for you guys, but at the end of the day, when you solve equations or inequalities, it's the opposite of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So as long as you can essentially remember that information, hopefully it won't be too hard. Two-step equations definitely gets a little bit more difficult because you do have to do two different types of operations within your equation. But like I said, you don't have to worry about that. All right. So one-step equations, adding and subtraction. So solving an equation is like balancing a scale. Both sides must be equal. Bless you. Alright, so if we wanted to balance the scale on the left, so this one right here, what would we have to do? If we wanted to balance the scale, right here. So this is what's on one side of the scale. How do we balance with the other side? No, what do we have to do?
Put the same thing on the other side?
Make something?
No, put the same thing on the other side to make it equal.
Yes, put the same thing on the other side. So we're gonna put 3 triangles and 2 circles. Because when it's balanced and it's straight across and it's even, whatever's on one side, you essentially have to have on the other side. That's kind of what you want to think about when you're solving. So whatever you do on one side of your equal sign or your inequality, you have to do on the other side. Alright, so now, that's how we balance the left scale. How are we going to balance the right scale? So this one's a little bit different. We're actually using numbers. So how are we balancing that left scale? Or right scale?
You're adding.
I'm going to add something, right? So one side gives me a total number of what? 7. The other side has 3 plus something. So how do we figure out what that plus is? We would essentially subtract 3 from 7, right? But we don't necessarily have to do that because that's pretty simple in this case, right? So what plus 3 gives me 7? Mikhail? 4. Alright, so this is a visual on the left of using just shapes to balance the scale. The one on the right is using numbers to balance the scale. Pretty straightforward, right? So that's what we want you to think about when you're solving equations. The left side has to be the same as the right side, or the right side has to be the same as the left side. Alright, so here's some steps for solving one-step equation. The variable must be alone or isolated. And everybody knows what isolated means, right?
Alone.
Oh. Okay, so if you don't know what isolated means, alone is essentially what isolated means. On one side of the equation. Isolate the variable by using blank or opposite operations. What word do you think goes there? I said it a couple times this morning. What's another word for opposite operations? Bridging. Close.
Inverse operation.
Inverse. So you have to write first letter. So using inverse or opposite. So if you don't know what the word inverse means, it means opposite operations. So whatever is going on in your equation, you are doing the opposite. Alright, The equation must remain balanced. And then you're gonna check your solution. How do you think we're gonna check our solution? How do we check our inequalities? What do we have to do? If you're not sure, look back at your notes from last week. How do we check to make sure our inequalities were correct? No?
Graph it and then, like, whichever way your arrow's pointing, you pick a number from there to substitute for the variable.
Perfect. So we graphed it, we drew an arrow in whichever direction answered our question, and then we picked a number and plugged it in to make sure that that inequality made a true statement. For the equations, you're getting an answer. What you're doing with that answer is you're plugging it back in to make sure that your whole equation makes sense. Alright, so the next part is gonna be a visual. Now, my thought process on visuals are, if they help you, absolutely want you to use them. If they do not help you, then just take it as a strategy, but a strategy that you don't necessarily have to use, right? And I learned this the hard way this year with my son because he's, taking math and they have a substitute that kind of went on a year for math, and he brings his homework home and he's like, Mom, I don't need these visuals. I don't need to draw them. I don't understand them. I can solve the problem without them. So me being the math teacher that I am, I'm like, okay, fine, just show your work and don't draw the visuals. He's like, but I'm losing points because I'm not drawing the visuals. And that's where it's like, as a parent, I'm like, that's not fair, because if he doesn't need them to understand what he's doing, and he can solve it without them, that should be okay, right? So, again, it's a strategy. It's not something that you must do. It's just something that I'm gonna show you. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, you're not gonna lose points if you don't give marks. Okay? So as the mom of me, I'm like, no, that's not fair. I'm not gonna make my students do that. Or lose points because they don't need the marks. Now, if you need it, absolutely I want you to use it. Okay? Alright, it says we can also use algebra tiles, which are our models, to represent the equation. It says use the key on the right to write and solve the equation represented below. Alright, so X is our tall little block, and then we have 4 individual ones, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay? And then over here it says it equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so we have to figure out that the equation is X plus 4 equals 10. So that's what that visual means. We don't know what X is, that's the big tile. So over here, you just need to write X equals your tile. This, the white block is just a positive one, and then the dark block is gonna be a negative. Okay? But we don't have a negative one in this one, so you don't have to worry about that. Alright, so with this one, what would our solution be? So what would X equal? Without using any math, just kind of looking at what we did over here. Hi. Yes. So X equals 6 because we know that 4 plus 6 is going to give us 10. Okay, so again, drawing a model might help you. You don't have to. And sometimes it's going to be easy to draw a model, but other times if you're dealing with like really big numbers, you're going to be drawing models for days, and you don't have days to answer these questions, right? Alright, so the next one says write and solve the equation represented below. So down here we have X, and we have 2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so someone raise your hand and tell me what you think the equation is going to look like. What do you think the equation is going to look like? Alright, Ronnie?
X plus 2 plus 6.
You said equals 6?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. And then what is our solution? Levi. So X equals 4. Mm-hmm. Alright, and then number 2, it says write and solve the equation represented below. Okay, so this one is a little bit different, so be careful. Alright, Ada, what do you think?
4 equals 1,
not one x, because we're just adding or subtracting. So if we did one x, that would be multiplying, right? Right. 1 plus x. Alright, and then what would our solution be? Kylie? Yes. Alright, so not terribly hard. Adding, subtracting equations, I don't think is hard. Like I said, it's the multiplying and the dividing that get a little bit more difficult. Alright, so I want you to slide over to the top of the next page, and I want you to solve these two. Remember, the dark boxes are negative, or it's a representation of one. Let me try that again. It is a representation of -1. So if you have two of them, it would be -2. Solve these two and then stand up when you are done. Go ahead, have a seat. Alright, so who would like to tell me what the equation is for the first one? Question. Thank you for volunteering, Will. Thank you for volunteering. So what was your equation?
My equation is x plus minus 2 or negative 2 plus 2.
Huh? What? So just one equation.
Yeah.
So x,
Plus,
why are we plussing?
or 6.
Nope, you can't forget about these two. So, in our key, the dark box represents what?
Negative 1.
Okay, so how many negative ones do we have?
2
So we're gonna do x
minus 2.
minus 2 equals how many positive?
4.
4, okay? Thumbs up if you got that. So x minus 2 equals 4. If you didn't, please make sure that you either ask, okay, how did we come up with that, or just make the adjustment. So now, what is our solution? What does x equal? Delilah? 6. And how do you know that? Because you what? Because you added 4 plus 2. Yep. Alright, the next one. Who wants to give that one a try? Alright, Camden?
7 equals 1 minus x.
7 equals,
1 minus x.
okay, so it's not 1 minus x because this is representing -1, right? So it would be x minus one, okay? And then what would our solution for that one be? What would our solution, Aiden?
8.
X equals 8. Alright, so we are going to do some of these together. Now, if you need to draw the algebra tiles to help you, by all means go ahead. I am not going to. Okay, we're just gonna solve these problems straight through. If the algebra tiles are definitely something that help though, I want you to do that. Alright, number 3. It says x minus 6 equals 12. So what operation is going on in our equation? Christiana.
Subtraction.
Alright, so what is the opposite of subtraction?
Addition.
So I'm gonna do plus 6, and that cancels it out. And then over here, I'm gonna do plus 6 to 12, and what's 12 plus 6? Levi? So x equals 18. How do I check to make sure this is correct? What I need to do? So I gotta plug it back in, right? We do 18 minus 6 equals 12. Thumbs up if you agree with that. So what does this look very similar to, the process that we just did? What does it look very, very similar to? Inequality. So that foldable, and I'm gonna flip back to it real quick. Where did it go? Well, I mean, this is a really good example, your homework page that day. I mean, this is essentially everything we're doing on that sheet. You write it, you solve it, you check it. Okay, but this one, this foldable. So this is. Anyways, the bottom of this foldable down here is essentially the same exact process. What's the only difference between the inequalities and the equations that we're doing today? It's the only difference. Only one person knows that's a problem. Look at C. You can see the difference between inequalities and essentially what we just did here. Kylie, I can't hear you. Say it one more time. You aren't using. Okay, so you're not using a number line because why? Are we graphing these? We're just solving these, right? So we're figuring out what x equals. So with the number line, we have lots of answers, okay? So again, with that information that Kylie just told us, what is the biggest difference between this problem right here and the inequalities we did last week? Y'all open up your notebooks, stop coloring on them, and actually look. Like look at the foldable I just showed you to look at, and compare this problem we just did to the solving inequalities. As you see, the biggest difference, because there's really only one, I want you to raise your hand. Why do I see these things not moving into your notebooks? Type something. You should not be going ahead. Stop going ahead, y'all. We are doing this slow so that you understand. Go do an old box. Good God almighty. Guys, stop going ahead right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, that will set me off today. I understand that this might be very easy, but I need you to learn the process today and tomorrow, because when we move into multiplying and dividing, your head is going to move slow because, oh my God, it's multiplying and dividing. So stop going ahead right now, else we can just test on this and not wait till Friday. It's completely up to you. Did you figure it out? What's the difference?
Solving inequalities has a number line, but then equations doesn't.
Okay, so solving inequalities have a number line. Solving equations do not. Why does one have a number line and one does not? Like what, why? Do you know, Aiden?
Because inequalities are
Yes, but there's a reason that we have number lines, and there's a reason that with equations, it's how you bend your finger. All right, Jonathan, what do you got?
because inequalities, depending on what the problem is, there could be infinitely many answers.
Right,
There's only one answer for these ones.
equations, exactly. So one has a set of answers where the other one just has one answer.
One.
Inequalities have one answer. I'm sorry, equations have one answer, inequalities have an
Multiple.
infinite number. All right, so number 4, x plus 5 equals 11. What is the opposite of what's going on in our operation? Mikhail. So we're gonna subtract 5 here, subtract 5 here. So x is going to equal what? So 11 minus 5 gives you, William?
6.
All right, and then I'm gonna plug that back in, and I'm gonna do 6 plus 5 equals 11. Do we agree? Yes, we do. All right, number 5 says 3 plus x equals 7. So what do we do here? Because the 3 does not have an operation in front of it. So how do I know what to do? What do we do? What do you think, Noah? Right, if there's nothing in front of that number, then you know it's a positive. They will always indicate to you if it's a negative. So yes, we are gonna subtract 3 here. That's gonna cancel, subtract 3 there. What is 7 minus 3? Kashana? 4. And then I'm gonna do 3 plus 4 equals 7. Do we agree? Yes, we do. All right, I want you to do 6, 7, and 8 with your group members. All right, so do those together and then stand up when your entire group is done. Raise your hand if you go to Miss B after this.
I do.
Over the entire class.
And then if you guys can.
Oh, I'm an old man. Yeah,
I've been done since you were born. I've been done since I was 2. Oh, 1, 2. You should fuck my Wait, no. 1, 2. Fuck my shoe. 5, 6, 8, 9 street. You are never street. Hey, would you say that again? No, we're not talking yet. Oh, no, but I wasn't. No, say that again. 1, 2. 7, 8. 7, 8. I'm recording. Stop saying. Guys, new class. So easy here. 24.6.
Really don't care.
No.
yeah.
Only one is 24.6. Huh? Can you do something like that? Guys, stop being loud. There isn't no football.
There really is no.
Caroline, that's
I got it. Oh, I just said you're I got it.
You were never straight. No, you're not.
No, she really was.
He is that guy. Guess what?
I pushed it up, yeah. I pushed it.
When someone today says, I'm straight. Yes, you do.
Alright guys, let's go ahead and go Alright, so it says 15 equals x plus 2.
It's X
Minus.
minus
15 equals X minus two.
Yeah.
15 equals X minus two, so just get out a pencil, and then, this is the one I just jump in and grab. So what is the opposite of minus two? What's the opposite? What'd you guys do? Well, everybody was talking, so I assumed everybody should have their hand up. Thank you, Elisa, for volunteering. We did plus two on this side, which cancels out. And then we're gonna do, whoops, well, we're gonna do plus two on this side. What is 15 plus two? Elisa? 17. So Elisa, I have a question. What do I do with that 17? So X equals 17, so I wanna check now to make sure I'm right, so what do I do? Minus 15 or minus?
2.
Minus 2, because we're just plugging it back into where the X is, and then 17 minus 2 equals 15. Alright, number 7, we have 17 equals X plus 4. Alright, what do we do here? Delilah, thank you so much for volunteering.
Well, I subtracted 17.
I can't hear you.
I subtracted 17 from 4.
Okay, so I have a question. If we want to get our variable by itself, would we subtract 17 or would we subtract 4? It's okay. That's why, and that's why we're going over this. That's why we're doing this together. So we're going to subtract 4 because we want to get that variable by itself, which means over here we're going to subtract 4. What is 17 minus 4? Ronnie? 13. Alright, what do I do to check? Susie. Kashada.
13 plus 4 equals 17.
Alright. So, how did we do with those first two on our own? So not everybody did good. What are you doing, Isaac? Put everything away except for what you're supposed to be doing. So thumbs up, we did good. Middle thumb, we got 1 out of 2. Down thumb, if we got both of them wrong.
Miss Skinny, I wrote 17 equals 3 plus 4. Would that still be the same thing?
3 plus 4? Should be 13.
13 plus 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just writing it because it just looks a little bit nicer when we don't put the 17 equals.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw
Um,
the 17 equals x plus, so I just did that.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as like we have the same numbers in same places or same operations, we're fine.
Okay.
All right. Zoe R, tell me what I'm doing for number 8. All right, so I'm gonna subtract 4 from this side and 4 from this side. Why are we subtracting 4, Zoe? I can't hear what you said.
4 is the number that you added to make 11.
4 is what?
4 is the number that you would have added to make 11.
Okay, but why are we subtracting it if we're adding it? Because we have to do the opposite to figure out what x equals? That's what you meant, right? Okay, perfect. Alright, so Zoe, what is 11 minus 4? Alright, and then what do I do with my 7? To,
Place that.
yeah,
Place that.
and 7 plus 4 equals 11, and we know that is correct. Alright, you guys did 9 and 10 as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so number 9, it says x minus 3 equals 12. Isaac, what do we do here, sweetie?
X equals 15 because 15 minus 3 equals 12.
Alright, tell me the process in which I do that to figure it out though.
I didn't do the process.
Maybe I need you to do what we're doing. You have to follow along with us. So, how would we go about doing that? Like, what's the opposite of subtraction?
Addition.
So we're gonna add 3 here, and that will cancel. We're gonna add 3 here, and x equals 15. Then what do I do with that 15, Isaac?
So you put it down to checkbox and 15 minus 3 equals 12.
Perfect. Now, once you get into the test and the quiz and the EOG, if what Isaac did works for you, I'm fine with that. But for our notes and stuff today and tomorrow and the rest of the week, let's try to just stay with the process.
Do the process.
If you find a better process that works better for you, perfect, I don't care. Like, I want you to do whatever works best for you, but for notes and stuff, so that it makes sense when you look back at it, try to follow along with this process for now.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense? Alright, number 10, 32 equals x minus 8. What do we do here? What do we do here? Alright, Kim. Okay. Okay. And why are we adding 8 instead of subtracting it? Okay, alright, and what is 8 plus 32? Okay, and then what do I do? How do I check it? And do we agree with that? Alright, so the challenge. Why is this challenging? Let's say that. We'll start with that. Why is it challenging? Gemma?
Because it has decimals.
Alright, so if you haven't done the challenge yet, please go ahead and solve the challenge for me and explain that to me first. Bless you. Alright, let's go ahead and go over the challenge. So it says x minus 8 and a half equals 16 and 1/10. What do we do? Leo, what do we do, son?
Add.
What are we gonna add?
8.5.
Okay.
16.1.
Alright, and then what do you get when you do 16 and 1/10 plus 5 or 8 and a half?
5 and 1.
What?
You add 5 and 1.
Right, so what do you get when you add those two, like the whole thing?
24.6.
Yep. And then what do I do with that 24 and 6/10? I can't hear anything you're saying, babe.
Then you put minus 8.5 equals 16.1.
And do we all agree with that?
Yes.
Alright. So this little sentence, question, summarize today's lesson. Alright, I want you to do exactly that. So I want you to use the sentence starter today. I learned ... Tell me what you learned and how you feel about it. Should be 2 to 3 sentences. No less than that. If you want to write more than that, then you're fine. There's that box up there, and it will maybe too. The box is expensive. Will you grab like a handful and put them in the cup back there? Don't worry about that part. left off. Okay, so let's say. Okay, alright, cool, cool. Do you remember any of this? Have you guys covered this at all? It's okay, this is the first day. So what I'll do is I'll let you have my page once they get started on their homework. You can copy it down and essentially it's just, you're just doing the opposite of your teacher. Yes, we have. Yeah, we already did, dividing decimals and adding and subtracting and multiplying. So we've already done all that, but we have acre trust and the wall to, help us if we forget anything. Okay? Alright, stand up when you are finished. You have more than that right here, yeah, that's fine. Alright, who would like to share their sentence or sentence? Alright, Joella, what'd you write, babe?
I said today I learned that you can use algebra tiles to represent an equation.
Perfect. And, how comfortable do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel like, or?
Sideways.
Okay, fair enough. It's first day. I like it. Anybody else? Would you like to share what you wrote? All right, Jonathan, nice and loud, baby.
Today, I learned that most of equations are easier than they look because it's just copy the equation and then first grade math after that.
I mean, essentially, that's very true. All right, so how many of you guys feel like for the most part today was pretty easy? Okay, so I want you to keep that mentality that it really is first grade math, right? It's just adding or subtracting once we get past the initial like, oh my goodness, I have to deal with a negative, or oh my goodness, I have to, it's really not that hard, guys, I promise. All right, go ahead, please glue this page into your notebook. Slide over to the next blank left page, and go ahead and title it Adding and Subtracting Equation Practice. Okay, so the page that I just passed out was what I passed out that was face down, so go ahead and grab that. Now I'm really like torn right now because obviously you have to show your work. Actually, go ahead and take my little. You need action. See? Alright, so, you have to show your work for these. And you have to show the check process to make sure that you did it right. What I'm debating with is the box enough space to fit that in there and not be sloppy? Okay, some of us are saying yes, some of us are saying no. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave that up to you. If you feel like you can fit your information in this box and not be sloppy, then by all means, that's what I want you to do. If not, everyone push post now. No one should be hiding right now. If not, then just do it on your page. Okay, so I'm leaving it up to you. If it's a hot mess express tomorrow when I check it, we will have to do everything in our notebook moving forward. Okay, so please don't make me regret my very bad decision on a Monday. Alright, so real quick, let's just go through and do number one together so we do have an example of what the expectation is for your homework tonight. Alright, so it says match each correct answer to a letter and complete the riddle below. So, for the first one it is x minus 7 equals 4. What's our process? What are we doing? Gemma, what are we gonna do in this one, babe?
We're gonna, plus 7 to cancel it out, and then plus 7 to 4.
Alright, and then x is gonna equal what?
It's gonna equal 11.
Alright, and then to check, what do I have to do?
11 minus 4 equals 7.
No, 11 minus 7 equals. Eleven minus 7 equals what, Gemma?
4.
4. Alright, so this is what I expect in this box. You're canceling both out. You're telling me what x equals, and then you're throwing it back in to check it. Alright, so our answer is 4. So if I go down here, what letter goes with 4? What letter goes with 4, Camden? And where do I put that O?
On number 4 down at the bottom.
Nope. What number did we just do?
Oh, on number 1.
Number 1. Okay, and that's the other reason why I want to show you so you don't get confused. So we're actually putting O on number 1. Alright, any questions with your homework? Nope, we're good? Got it? Okay. When you are finished, make sure that you glue this into your notebook. Don't cover up your work from, if you're doing it in your notebook, then you move it around the room to do Imagine That. Okay? This is the first part. Again, we'll copy that from what you have on your desk with you today. Alright, so why don't you type that out so you can know what some blue stuff is. Yeah. Oh, yes, you're right. Sorry, it should be 11, not 4. So I keep going around. So 1 gets a W, not a O. My bad. So, because the, x equals 11, not 4. Yeah.
Oh.
Blame it on me. That's why I keep you guys around, make sure I do things right, count the correct copies. Alright, so skip this first one. Okay, and we'll start on the left side, so just copy this, scroll down, basic copy the next one here. And then same thing for the